what do you mean? And that, oof, that could be too much to bear. So therefore, brothers do different things. I'm going to get some cigarettes. Yeah, never see you again. That type of thing. It's one thing we have to work on is being able to support one another. I know a lot of brothers, and I was saying in the back, when I was coming up, we listened to soul music. You had your Marvin Gaye, you had all these men, and even Lenny, yeah. You had all these men where that's what you heard on the radio is men sharing their hurt and pain, so it was understood. We grow up now, even if the kids have parents, the music they're coming up off of is straight bragging. All the time. I got this, you ain't got that. I'm a boss, you a worker, you ain't this, I'm that. 24 hours a day. Trap this or whatever the case is. And then to make it even more succinct, okay, when I was coming up, WRBD, WEDR, okay, you heard Millie Jackson late at night, but in Sunday you heard Shirley Caesar, you might have heard some Run DMC, Dad's Band. You got a full spectrum of everything we're supposed to be. If you have a radio station that plays nothing but Cardi B and trap all day long, you can't even imagine growing up out of that at all. So you have these kids, and this is where the whole father issue comes up. When I was in school, I barely graduated out of high school, by the way. A brother was feeling himself. A couple people told him he looked good, he was on and popping. New edition was out, had a little S curl, I cut it low so people thought it was my real hair, you know what I'm saying? You know, I was doing that. Guy came out, had my little pinky ring in my baggy pants, whatever, you know. My auntie was like, what you gonna be in college? I said, a pimp with a degree. Okay. And I went and I learned some things, and some things were shown to me. But I promise you, throughout all of that, in the back of my mind, I had an idea of what growing up was going to look like. I knew that I was going to grow up out of that into something else. You see what I'm saying? These kids, they really think that being 50 with a tattoo on your face of an ice cream cone is going to be the move. They really think that they're going to be 65 with their underwear pumping up out of their pants like it's a pamper. They really think that's going to be the move when they're 60. They don't see. See what I'm saying? And this is what happens when you don't have fathers and all this other kind of stuff. And because of that, I was saying, I may see about 40 brothers in the classes that I teach, but I see about 60 to 55 brothers in total, because they just hang out in my office and look at me. What you drinking? What kind of water? What music you listen to? I don't know, there ain't no crime rate to that music. What kind of music is that? What is this? That real instruments? And I'm asking all these crazy questions, and I recognize these boys ain't got nobody at home. And if it ain't me, they're gonna go back and try to learn something from Future. Well, oxymoron with that name. But of course, that's what that means, okay? When there's not a father at home, they're going to find a father somewhere, even if it's something off of a video.
Okay, you said something there, and I see a lot of black men in this audience, and probably a lot around my age, and I think growing up in the 60s and 70s, probably 50% of us wanted to be a pimp.
Superfly.
So, Goldie, Superfly, all that. But anyway, we know why black men are missing. They're in jail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We can go down that list. But you talk about the interactions and when the father isn't in the house, and we were in the back and I was giving my example. My father died when I was 13. So I didn't have a father around me at that age when probably more so than ever you needed to have a man around. So I was raised by my grandmother and my mother. So the fact that my father killed himself, my mother and my grandmother probably protected me more so than if my father was around. But they didn't protect me in the sense that I didn't grow up to be a responsible person. But what I'm saying in terms of relationships, what they gave to me was a relationship with me and a woman has to be equal. In a lot of relationships, women think, or men, they're grown, or they're raised to say, you are responsible for taking care of that family. A woman should be on the side, or when I say on the side, not having to contribute. So me and my dynamic is, if you're gonna be in a partnership with me, it's gonna be straight up partnership. I'm not gonna take care of you. So that's my dynamic that I deal with. So we all have our dynamics in which we deal. So that's one, in terms of man, woman, not having a father, not whatever, having in the household.
I think one of the reasons why we don't have more men in the household is the fact that, again, that we're generally speaking, we have not been in control. We haven't been in a position where we have the full responsibility and accountability as a people for our own condition. Well, you know, you go back to slavery, then you go to Jim Crow, then you go to the affirmative action period. And what I mean is that there's been an evolution of getting control and self-determination. All along the way, other things kind of came into play. As you talk about the music, we talk about the movies, and the kind of things that glorified a pattern of life that did not, if you will, lift up those things that really create empowerment and control. And so I think we've got a lot of brothers who think that just sleeping with somebody, damn the consequences, is cool, when it's not. And was there at one time in my life, thank God, you know, through my family and other things evolved and it got better than that. But if there's no one there to help you to see differently and to understand better and to elevate yourself, we just have way too many young men who have seen examples of other men not being there and then glorifying the fact that being free and able to do what I want to do without any responsibilities is really the way it's supposed to be. And ladies and gentlemen, I gotta tell you, there's only one group of people that can do anything about it. And they look like everybody sitting in this room today. We have to take the responsibility to change their condition, because if you haven't been paying any attention, not only there's no one else really interested in it, their self-interest is making sure that those kind of conditions continue to fester and grow and take over us and eliminate us as being a people. So we have to take that responsibility. We got to grab our sisters, we got to grab our brothers, but we have to understand that we are in control of our destiny. And when you don't feel like you're in control of your destiny, you will settle and do anything without any type of repercussions that you think about. When you have something to gain and you know that you have something to gain, you take more responsibility. We got too many kids out here right now who don't think they have anything to gain except for just doing whatever feels good at that time. Or nothing, nothing to lose.
One point I want to add is, something I really wanted to hit home with my experiences with, past girlfriends, and something that my wife taught me was how to be honest. A lot of times when you join in a new relationship, you're really living this facade. The man is, given the impression like he's not speaking to any other woman on the planet, only you. It's not true. The same on the girl side. With my experience with my wife, we really got to know each other as friends first, with the understanding that, hey, I do have these relationships going on, and so does she. So we bonded as friends in the beginning until the point where we realized, I want you for me, and that was reciprocal. When I say that she taught me how to be honest, in the beginning, I thought she was crazy, because she was telling me things that I didn't in my past experiences. That wasn't the kind of thing you told a man that you like. for example, different experiences that she's had in her life. And I'm like, why are you telling me this kind of stuff? This is crazy. But what that ended up having an impact on me is I end up telling her things that she may not have wanted to hear. But we end up opening up this entire world of honesty with one another. And we knew each other on such a deep level that I've never experienced in any past relationship. Because back then, you just told the girl what she wanted to hear. And so did she. She told me everything I wanted to hear. And those were all lies. We're just living a facade. Until you come to the point where maybe we have a child by now, 2 children, and then we really get to know each other. The shit hits the fan. And then now your relationship is broken up. That's another single family household. Because you didn't take the time to really be honest with yourself, be honest with them, and truly get to know each other on the deepest level.
The word honesty. When you really talk about breaking down the word honesty and understanding what it means, the first thing you have to do is break away from the outside influences that you've just heard that are constantly being thrown at us. We always are conditioned. We hear our music that's conditioning us a certain way. We hear that you're inferior, that you're not supposed to do certain things, or you're supposed to do certain things certain ways. Black families are this, black families are that. And we're never really honest with what it's really about. We allow this prejudgment to supersede what's reality. And reality is that we are all people. We're all individuals. And one of the things that I love that I heard not too long ago is everybody was born a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its entire life thinking that it's stupid. And in our instances, we've been conditioned so that we don't respect ourselves, we don't love ourselves, we don't love what's going on in our lives. So if we don't love ourselves, how can we possibly love anybody else? So number one, before we start talking about a relationship with someone, we have to learn to love ourselves. And one of the things that tells me, and should tell each one of you, that we don't love ourselves is our music.
Preach.
The music that our children are listening to, the music that some of us in this room are listening to, is derogatory and negative towards us.
Yes.
I have a 30-year-old son. And when he was growing up, one of the rules we had in the house is your mother and your sister are not bitches or whores. I don't want to hear it. Anything that you might listen to with your friends on the street that has those 2 words in it, if I hear it, I'm going to destroy it. And you are going to be in a world of hurt. That's one of the things that we have to stop as a people, is degrading ourselves. Once we take hold of who we are and learn to love ourselves and appreciate ourselves for the true essence of our person, then we can make a change. Many of you are here today because that's where you're stepping out to do something different. So I applaud you for being here, but it's the first step. This event that we're having today can't be the end of it. It has to be the beginning. And you have to be confident in yourself so that you can be confident in your mate, because they're an individual. They have ideas. They have wants. They have desires that you have to be open to or recognize. And if you're not open to them or recognize them, it's time to exit before it's too late. It's not a physical relationship. It is mental and emotional and really loving yourself and loving that person.
I think also one of the concrete ways not having a father in the home has impacted the black male, black female dynamic is one, as mentioned earlier, is if you are being raised on how to treat a woman by what you see in hip hop, and let me quickly though defend hip hop, not all hip hop is bad, right? That it essentially conditions you to be a person of conquest. If your father is not there, you're not seeing a healthy relationship dynamic between your father and your mother. The assumption is, well, whatever he says in television, in the movies, whether it be in the black exploitation era, talking about pimps, or right now, the futures and what like, the thought is, well, I need to have as many women as I possibly can. But on the flip side, I've also had some very painful conversations with black women where they tell me that they expect nothing good from a black man, in large part because of the lack of their father. And all the times their father said, I'm gonna pick you up at 2 o'clock at this particular time, and 2 o'clock came and went, and he wasn't there to be found. And all of that goes into the relationship. The powerful song by Erykah Badu, right? Bag Lady, right? The idea is we have baggage, which has led to a disconnect between black men and black women. So my next question to the panel is, what are the key ingredients to a healthy relationship, not just romantic, but platonic, for black men and black women in order for that healing to actually commence? What key steps do black men and black women need to take? What are some ingredients that is going to make us whole in our community so that we can say that black men and black women are making forward progress in how we relate to one another?
We're going to get this one out of the way. Accountability. It's quickly, something to attribute to what men have to do, so on and so forth. But I tell you, when I have this conversation with sisters, it's like, what? Accountability on both sides. Every class, the discussion will always go to brothers and what they need to do, so on and so forth. But it's both ways. And right now, there's, black girl magic and sisters on the rise and yada, yada, yes. And, a lot of my female students, they're on it. They're making things happen. And I keep telling them, one of the hallmarks of leadership is accountability. Well, I don't know about, he made me, when he did this, he made, you're going to be a CEO of a company, but you always talk about what he made you do. He's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but you got to have some kind of accountability. Oh, you always got to say that word. You always have, because it's true. It's true. The level of just hate that goes my way when I bring that towards sisters. Everybody has to be accountable for their baggage. And with this new movement or whatever, they use little side maneuvers to get around that. Okay, well, he's immature, I'm just complex, you're just gonna have to deal with me, this is who I am, so on and so forth. But that thing you do, you need to grow up. I'm good, I'm here to fix you, you're the problem. No, it's both of us, we both have issues. But that goes sideways so strong. And like one of the last things I checked on the Facebook feed, this guy said, women check men, men check men. Who checks the women?
My comment is this: communication. Everything revolves around communication. And not just communication because I want to say something. My great-grandfather said to me, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as you speak. We become great communicators when we want something. If a brother wants to push up on you, he becomes the Mac Daddy of communication. He can tell you some stuff that has you just floating. When you want something from a brother, you make him feel like the King of Kings. But when a difficult situation arises, we clam up. We go go to our separate corners, and we come out swinging. The communication is lost. We live in a very complex, difficult world. There are always going to be issues. There are always going to be things that are thrown upon us, especially as African American people and African American couples. But if we don't come together and start talking to each other and not lip service and listening to each other, we'll never fix anything. And it will continue to perpetuate itself over and over and over again. So in my world, it's all about communication, and it's all about listening to what the other person has to say. Don't just hear them, listen.
Honesty and trust. Back to your point, reference honesty. Should I lie to you for 3 or 4 months? Or should I tell you the truth now?
I think one of the first things that has to happen is that us has to be bigger than I. When you're on a job, you're playing on a team, there is no I in team. It's about the we. All too often in the relationships, they break down because I becomes much bigger than us. You have to seek first to understand, then to be understood. If you start there and commit to that, us in terms of the survival of the couple, the relationship, should always be the most important goal and objective. And when we put our own individual needs aside and focus on what is best for us, that means that I've got to understand where you're coming from. I have to understand what you need. If I spend enough time figuring that out, and you spend enough time figuring out where I'm coming from and what I need, and then you do something pretty simple. You love unconditionally, you serve willingly, and then you do something that's going to be really hard for all of us. But if you do it, the relationship will work. You forgive repeatedly.
Ingredients, I would say ownership, that rolls into accountability, being honest about your intentions. You know, take accountability of what you're getting into, why you're getting into it, how you're getting into it, because what you're getting into, you may want both the man and woman may want it to be short term. They may want it to be long term. So being accountable for the decisions that you make with somebody in your lives. Communication, knowing when to speak, when not to speak, how to communicate. Really focusing, if you're really tuning into somebody, focusing on the best way that they communicate. Anybody here familiar with the book, The 5 Love Languages? It's a great book. If you haven't read it, I've read it twice, actually. It strengthened my relationship with myself first, because I became a lot more aware of how I like to be treated, or how I like for people to communicate to me. And I believe to work with someone in a relationship, you absolutely have to know what's the best way to get this to them. So not that they just hear me, but they understand me and they feel me. Honesty. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with the person next to you. That's where it starts. If you can't be honest with yourself, then just save the person the trouble. Save them the trouble, because you gotta get you right first. And perseverance. I say perseverance because all of these things are great, but these things require work. None of us are perfect, and these things require work every day. So that moment that you fail to communicate, you gotta be honest with yourself and realize that you have to persevere and take ownership to this and say, I have to do better. Every day you gotta wake up and say, how can I be better? Not just as a person, but a person that's in this relationship with this with this person I have in front of me or this person I have next to me, so that we can become better together. So ownership, just taking accountability, communication, honesty, and perseverance.
Hearing everybody speak, I'm agreed with everything everybody's saying, and I thought that honesty would be my number one. But even before that, I think red flags and finding the right mate comes before you can even have a successful relationship. And too many people ignore the red flags that the man or the woman is sending out and sugarcoating it, thinking things will get better. If you're not with the right mate, there's nothing that can be done if you guys don't have the right wavelength with one another. Having a proper mediator that you both trust in a relationship that has both of your backs and can tell you to each other's face, hey, you're looking at this the wrong way. And you trust that person and it can give you a whole new point of view. And with honesty, I can't stress that enough because that was so powerful in my own life. Knowing who you're laying next to couldn't be more important. Because that'll bring you down if you're not having those proper conversations and you're not spending that time to communicate, and then you end up destroying your own life and wasting your time. I have, a lot of female friends that they tell me the things that, a man is putting them through. And you really have to know your self-worth. If you feel like you deserve that, then, fine, that's up to you. But know that self-worth, that if you don't deserve that kind of treatment, then tell them bye. Because the more time that you're with this man, and telling all these other guys that you have a boyfriend, you're ruining your chance to find a good man, because we're out there.
What do you gentlemen find most attractive in a woman?
I mean, I'll jump right in. Confidence is the most attractive quality to me. A woman that's unwavered by any exterior influences. She knows exactly who she is in any situation. She's strong and brings you up. One point that isn't in any of the post questions is the question of why should I get married? And I have a lot of single friends, all in 30 to 35 range, and the biggest thing is finding that woman that makes you better. And once you find that, then that's the right person. But if you feel that you're happier by yourself, then that's the way you're going to be. But that self-confidence that a woman can have is unbelievable.
I think security, someone who is really secure in themselves. One of the things about relationships, it's not a challenge at all when things are going great. You both look good, money's good, you're having a good time, things is great, no problem. But the key to a relationship is when things can go wrong. And when someone is secure, they're able to look within themselves and be honest with themselves, therefore they can be honest with you about maybe what they've done to contribute. And obviously, you need to be secure as well, meaning the man needs to be secure. So for me, security is real important, that when something needs to be done, you're not worried about how it's going to affect me by itself, but how it's going to affect us. And it allows you to get out from just being about being me-centric to being us-centric. So security, which is a part of confidence, I think is real important.
I was going to say the same thing in regards to confidence, but I was hearing, you think confidence, she's strong, she goes out, so on and so forth. But But I'm thinking you gotta have a certain amount of confidence just to be vulnerable. You know, you go out on a date with a girl and she's, I'm strong, I'm stronger than strong, I'm so strong. Hey, yeah. Good for you, yeah. You know. Got shot in the ankle, I didn't cry because I'm strong. So, I've seen a lot, again, in my classroom, a lot of sisters who are like, I like this boy, but I don't know how to. Yeah. You know, my mom, you know, she ain't take no stuff and da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm scared to tell her that I like this boy because I'm thinking I probably did something that you don't do that, you don't trust no da-da-da. But how do I give him enough space to even, I hadn't even seen that before. So a lot of people have skewed ideas on what confidence is. I try to explain to a lot of them, you know, a dog barks out of fright, not might. You know, you better go somewhere, go now, I ain't playing, okay. When he bites your ass, it's something different. So, yeah, a lot of times you see these women, I'm bossy, I gotta have the last word, I'm arguing, so on and so forth. You'd be amazed at how much of that is coming from insecurity. That's not strength, that's somebody who's scared to disappear in the room if they don't get the last word on everything. That's somebody who is afraid that their identity is going to evaporate if she accepts the fact that her man just came up with a good idea. So, confidence, it goes in many different directions. But yes, confidence.
So I'm thinking, because one of my personal opportunities is to be able to express words better, especially in regards to questions as such. So confidence, definitely, but the word that comes out to me most is compatibility. And why I say that is because it encompasses so many different things, because I can love how she look, I can love how she smell, I can like how she do this or do that, but most importantly, I love how she's compatible to me, and I know it's subjective for everybody. So I really can't name a specific thing that gives me more than compatibility to me, us, how we can work together to make sure we're becoming our best selves. And those things come with all the things that these men mentioned, whether it be confidence, security, personality, kind, caring, loving. It's all of those things, but most importantly, it's definitely compatibility.
And to me, compatibility is finding that imperfect person that's perfect for you. Because none of us are perfect. And the other thing in terms of my perspective, and I've always used this analogy, if the tree needs cutting down in the backyard, you're not going to wait for me to cut it down. You're going to find a way to get it cut down. Wait, hold on. I'm serious about that though. I'm very serious about that. We just had a hurricane, right? Now, if I'm across the world somewhere, the tree needs to get cut down or move, you gotta move the tree. Don't call me up talking about the tree need to be moved. I'm in Dubai, or wherever it is that I'm in. And the tree needs to be moved, so I'm not saying go out there and cut the tree down. See, that's what y'all are thinking. I'm not saying go out and cut the tree down. They got tree cutters.
I'm laughing because the first part, they were like, D. The second part, they were like, hold up now. Let's go back to the first part.
I'm trying to figure out how you got to Dubai without her. Yeah, doing the hurricane. For me, it's being real, and it encompasses everything that they talked about. A person who is willing to be real and show you who they really are. That's the most attractive thing in the world. When a person has the confidence to be themselves and not put on facades. You know, I'm a man, I'm a certain way. I don't like makeup. Because in the morning, all that's gone. Okay? I really want to see who you are from top to bottom. Because we're talking about developing a relationship here. You want to know who I am? I want to know who you are. And we're going to start, as my brother said here, as friends. We're going to talk. And we're going to listen. And if we can't do those things, then there is no after. There is no next. The only thing we can do is what I do with everybody else is shake your hand, say hello, and keep stepping.
I just have a few more questions and then we'll turn it over to the audience. What is one thing that black women get wrong about black men? As well as, as well as something that black men get wrong about black women. One or two, 1.5.
Generalization? That's a heck of a generalization. One of the things I think a lot of black women get wrong about black men is that we think we're players. We want to play. We're looking for multiple experiences more than a valuable relationship. Being a little older than some of the brothers on this panel, younger than the two that they called the old man, I'm glad they didn't say that about me when I came. Back in my day, I ran around a lot. I was young and crazy. But at the end of the day, one of the things I realized is that's a very lonely situation. Because you really never have anyone you can count on to be there when the going gets tough. So in reality, it's all about being real. And being willing to, again, be vulnerable, open yourself up for conversation and getting to know the other person before the physical attraction takes over.
I would just say that I give two things. The first one is just the assumption that brothers are always up to no good. I gotta get to work, I gotta get to traffic. I mean, there isn't that much time within those to get that much evil out. It's just not that, you know what I'm saying? Also, this idea that men are embarrassed or uncomfortable, or they don't like to speak on their relationships. I think men, we're conditioned not to. There's so much of the process that's celebrated as far as women are concerned. You know, one day your prince is gonna come, and if I had another thing about this Meghan Markle and giving black women hope, you know, girl, you got your man. At the wedding, the whole wedding ceremony, okay, it's her day. Both of y'all are committed to each other on that, but it's her day. It really got nothing to do with the man, but it's her day, okay. He'll come out there and he's sitting up there with the preacher, you know, scratching his butt, waiting for her to come out or whatever, you know. And all of a sudden, here she comes on a stallion with flamingo. You know what I'm saying? It is all about her. It's all about her, okay? Afterwards, you know, the honeymoon, and how was it, girl? No, nobody asking him nothing. Okay, you get to the house, whatever, he's setting things up. What is it? Happy wife, happy life. Don't nothing wrong with husband. So, you know, you go through all of these things, and it'll make a guy feel like, okay, my only job is to keep her from falling into an attitude. Anything less is feminine. Okay, so if I'm talking with a dude or whatever, and he grinning or whatever, hey, I've been going out with this girl, and it's happened several times, and he's pulling out pictures. Yeah, this is her. She's such and such. And dude's like, yeah, why you doing all of that? And you can see him say, yo, I love her, man. Hey, and then he'll leave. Oh, that does sound kind of. If we had a society that celebrated us instead of just her, I think it'll change a lot of things. And a lot of brothers are waiting on that.
Okay. Give it to him. So, I'm going to try to phrase this right. The one thing that I think is missing is that we do not lift one another up enough. You understand what I'm saying? We don't encourage. The question was what we don't do, or what's missing. And I think that's what's missing. You know, we as black people are chameleons. And we have so much in us, and we don't encourage one another enough to pull all of that strength out of us. And I think that's one thing that is missing with us as men and women coming together.
Unfortunately, this question, I believe, is environmental and generational. So the first thing that came to my mind is, what do black women think about black women what do black women think about black men that's not true? And I just heard a bunch of women saying, because they ain't shit. That's the only thing I heard. And it encompasses so many different things. So I believe that is wrong because, and essentially I think we don't look at the deeper issue is that, you know, that guy may not be who you want him to be at this moment for you in your life, which is okay because it's his life and vice versa. I feel like we, joining what Eric said, is we don't encourage each other enough to the point where we understand that, you know, hey, I'm wrong about you right now because you're not who I feel like you should be for me in my life at this time. Because what I'm doing right now is okay for this person, but may not be for the next person. So I believe that's the major issue, and the solution is definitely encouraging and uplifting one another and being honest about who each other are at these times in our lives and understanding that, hey, you know, it's not that I'm not shit. I'm just not the shit that you want me to be. Shit, exactly. I'm me. And there's somebody that really appreciates me. So, you know, we're not supposed to be together. Okay? So that's my major thing for both men and women.
I gotta follow that. Because a friend of mine once told me that everybody brings some to the table. And it's finding that person that you're willing to appreciate and love their
I need to ask for forgiveness, but I'm gonna tell you something that I probably maybe shouldn't share publicly. But when I was listening to what you were saying about not being shit,
say that word.
Well, both of my parents were shit. Okay, I was fortunate. I grew up in a two-parent household. Both of my parents were college educated. Both of them were very committed. My dad used to tell me all the time he didn't have a father, so whatever mistakes I make, you know, just understand that I'm trying to figure it out, and I may not do it right the first time. My mother was a social worker, so she always told him what he didn't do right, so that he could get it right. But I learned how to exist with a strong black woman without having to be a badass to do it. Okay, my dad was a badass, and my mama was a badass, and they were able to coexist. And when my mom died and I spoke at a funeral, you know, I called her Superwoman. And I said, now, when I was growing up, there was no term called Superwoman. She was just mama, okay, because she worked every day, you know, was a professional woman, but she held it down at home, and she also ran a charity. So at that point, you know, she was kind of like what would become a superwoman. Well, my dad was a very successful businessman and very involved in the community. So, you know, again,